So here's a quick video to explain a patch I uploaded the other day. It's using Anuli, which is a new polyphonic version of Rings. I've got the module here. As you can see, it's a bit bigger than the usual Rings in VCV Rack, the resonator. And I've just got a few other modules for effects and recording my voice. So let's just have a quick look at the features. You've got encoders for the kind of pseudo polyphony and the resonator type. You can also right click and change that in the menu. This is just a few extra controls. The polyphony here is kind of like a fake polyphony. It just lets notes ring out on one channel. So if I just connect the strum to a MIDI controller, let's just put that back to the default mode. So that's what it sounds like when you load up. You all know what Ring sounds like. So if I just increase the damping, so that'll overlap a few notes, but obviously if you right click in here and set this to Polyphonic, I've got that set to 10 channels already actually, so obviously you can play 10 notes at once. Amazing. Okay, so what I did in the video, I wasn't using the strum input here, I was actually triggering it via the audio input and using noise. So if we just get a noise source, I'm going to use this Bog Audio one because it's polyphonic as well. So I'll just right click on there, set that to 16 channels. Then I need an ADSR and a VCA because what we want is just a really short burst of noise just to trigger it and get it ringing. So if I stick the envelope output into the VCA and then stick the noise, I think I use the white noise output, put that in there, and then put the output into the audio input. And now if I trigger this, that sounds fairly bad, to be honest. I need to turn the damping back down. What you want to do on the ADSR is turn everything right down. So you've just got a really short burst of noise. So if we just listen to that on its own, I'll just mute that for a second. So it's just a little click like that. If I just remove that again and then unmute Rings. I'm going to turn the sustain down as well. I didn't turn that right down. So that's that, but I'm actually going to put that through a filter as well. So if I just move that up there, give us some more space. I think I'll use the surge filter. So I'm going to take the noise output and stick it into this filter. Then I want to randomly modulate the filter cutoff. So I'm going to use an LFO. I'm going to use the Bog Audio one and use the sample and hold output. Then turn that modulator up. And I'm also going to set that to band pass, I think. And turn the resonance down a bit. And I might put that to slow mode as well. Okay, so let's just hear what that sounds like now. Just turn the resonance back up a bit. And I need to modulate that more. And turn that up as well so you can hear it a bit more. Okay, so you can hear what that's doing. It's just noise through a filter. You probably know what that sounds like already. But the next thing we need to do is we want a trigger. So I want kind of rhythmic triggers for this. So one thing I like to do to get polyphonic gates is I get a random module and I get two of these and put them into a clock. Then I get a merge module. And if you set each of these to 8 triggers, it just means you're going to get triggers on different channels and you're not constantly getting notes all the time on one channel. But obviously that's going to be a bit tedious to patch all those in. So I've saved this as a collection earlier. So if I just go to File and then Import Selection, and then random polygates. Let's put that over there, let's just drag it back. Okay, so if I get that polyphonic output, and to drive the filter, I want to use sample and hold. So I'm going to use the count modular super sample and hold, because this is polyphonic. So that's going to be my trigger. If you want to hear what that sounds like, I'll just put that into the strum input. So I think it's picking up a few of the MIDI notes I played earlier. So what I do, I've got two different clocks feeding into the random gates, and you can just get different polyrhythms. So for example, you set one to ×1 and the other one to 1.5. You're just going to get a slight kind of offset between the notes, and you can kind of adjust that for the effect you want. Okay, so that's my trigger. I'll just take that out for a second. So if I put that into the sample and hold trigger, and then I'll use the output to modulate the filter. And let's just see what that sounds like. Okay, I've got nothing yet because I also need to trigger the envelope. So if I use a gate signal in there, so you can hear what the filter's doing there. I'll just turn that up a bit. Now if we put this into the audio input of Anuli, you can hear that's triggering it, and it just sounds slightly different to triggering with the strum input. Obviously the quality of the sound you put in will affect the sound you get out, but it kind of interacts in different ways, which is quite interesting. I'll try and do a deeper dive on that at some point, but that's the basis of the patch. And if you increase the damping a bit and just let that ring a bit, we also need to modulate it. So I'll get my favourite random modulator. I'll just turn that off for a second. And I also want to make this polyphonic, so this is a trick I use quite a lot. I'll get a module called Polyphonic. If I just randomize that with Control R, adjust a few of the channels, make sure that's on 16. I don't want any of these too low or too high, so I'll just put them all roughly in the middle somewhere. Turn that one up, and that will probably do. Now if I put that output into the speed input of Caudal, if I just get the scope here, and then any one of these outputs will actually have 16 channels. And you can see what that's doing there. It gives you 16 channels of random modulation. So the next thing we need to do is to get some notes. So I need a quantizer, and I like to use quantum because you can choose the notes you're playing. I'll keep it simple and just a few notes of C minor. Why not? You don't want to use too many notes sometimes because you might get a clash of kind of pairs of notes that don't sound good. I also need another VCA just to reduce the range because we don't want a full kind of 10 octaves. So if I just take that down, now if I get the output from the super sample and hold, put that into the VCA and into the quantizer, and then I'll take that into our volt per octave input. In fact, I'll use this octave control here just so we can vary that. Then I'll just unmute this. Okay, so that was the majority of the basis of the patch from the other day. Obviously we need to modulate a few things on here, so just start with the position. Just turn the speed down a bit. And I'll do the brightness as well. We turn the brightness down and just turn up that attenuator. And another thing I like to do, just to get some kind of stereo spread, is to use a stereo spreader. which is this module here. So if I take that cable out and put that into the stereo spread, and use both the outputs here, and just increase the stereo, just moves the notes around the stereo field, which makes it a bit more interesting. And I'll also roll off a bit of the low end with the high pass filter, which is built into the channel controls on my Meld, which is really useful. So I did have another layer, which is actually an all pass filter. I'll just see if I can remember what it's called. It's this one here, KRT. Just turn the volume down on there for a second. And I need a bit more space. And I also need a polyphonic mixer, so I'll use a VCA mix. And I'm going to turn up the order to 8. And then I'll use this for the frequency. So the sample and hold output into the frequency again. And what I find with this, it doesn't quite have enough resonance to kind of ping. So if I just take our noise output, that one there, but instead of going straight into the input, I'm going to go into the VCA mix and then take the mix output into there. I'm also going to duplicate that spread module. Now, as you can hear, that's not very exciting yet. I'll just mute this again for a second. So what we need to do now is I'm going to turn this down. You can actually get away with quite a lot of gain on that. I think if I did about minus 0.2 maybe. And then I'm going to take an output from the output back into an input. Yeah, that's not quite enough level. But minus 2, I wanted minus 0.2. You have to be a bit careful with this, obviously, unless it kind of blows up and damages your ears. There you go. What you find with this is it doesn't quite track the frequency properly, so you don't get musical pitch, but it gives you this kind of nice kind of tone, like a percussive kind of sound. And basically the gain there on the feedback is your kind of sustain. It's just kind of extra resonance. So if that's sustaining a bit too much, you can just take it down again a bit. And again, I'm going to roll off some low end on there. And then I'll give it some delay and reverb as well, actually. Turn that down a bit. That's not connected for some reason. Got a bit too much delay. I'll give it some reverb as well. Not too much. So that's just a kind of atonal percussive layer. And if we just blend this back in. So that's kind of 80% of it. The final element was clouds. Now I've just realised I'll turn this down a bit while I'm speaking. Don't really need that LFO there anymore, so I'll delete that one. What we might want is a touch of pitch vibrato, so we'll grab another LFO actually. And I'll make this polyphonic as well. And I'll use the FM input, the frequency one here, just turn that up a tiny bit. Maybe a slight bit more. Okay, so the last thing is clouds. I'll just delete that scope for a minute. Obviously, if you're using rings, there is a law on using clouds as well. It's a bit of a classic. And the one I want is, I can't see it now, it's actually called Nimbus, which is from the Surge XT collection, and that's also polyphonic. So obviously I could just take the poly output from Anuli and stick that straight into Nimbus, but I don't want to do that. What I actually want to do is take a kind of a mix, because I just find that gives you a fuller sound. So if I get another module called Polymult, so what I'm going to do is take a monophonic signal and then copy it back on 16 channels. So we've got 16 channels, but we've got the whole mix copied, if that makes sense. Not sure it does, to be honest, but so for the input. Okay, so I couldn't work out why that sounded so bad, but I forgot what I did in the video. So what we need to do is sum the poly outputs from the two sound sources, the filter and Anuli, and I'm going to use the PCV sum module, which is this one here, and I need two of those. So if I just grab the output, so the polyphonic input will take the output from the all-pass filter, then we'll take the odd output from Anuli, and I just wanted to take the level down on this because I don't want that as loud. And this gives you a monophonic output, so I'll put that into the input, and I'm just going to use stackable inputs and just put them both into the same input there. And then let's just solo that. Right. That's not how I wanted to do it again. What I need to do is put those both into Polymult, and then that'll copy it back onto 16 channels. So let's just have a listen to that. Modulate that slightly and turn that down a bit. Get some more feedback, maybe a touch of reverb. Okay, that's better. Let's just bring that back in. Update, I found it. I discovered what it was. If I just solo this for a second. I need to solo my mic as well so you can hear what I'm doing. And just turn up the wet mix. That gives you that metallic sound. That was the missing piece of the patch. If you turn that down, it sounds rubbish, to be honest. That gives you that nice kind of metallic texture. If we turn that up a bit and put that back into clouds. You can hear what that's doing. And I also modulated the filter just to take some of the high end off. And there you go. Let's just listen to this on its own. That's quite a nice sound. Basically, you just play with the frequency and the filter of the sound going in, and then the brightness, the damping, the position. And if you want that classic kind of swoopy pitch mod thing that Rings does, just modulate the structure as well. So let's just hear what that sounds like. I'll exaggerate this a bit. I think it goes up in fifths, so you have to be a bit careful. Sometimes it kind of puts it out of tune. That's the classic kind of ring sound. Let's just give that some more reverb. And some delay. And then bring clouds back in. And there's your full kind of ambient thing. There you go. So apologies for fucking that up. But that's a bit more similar to the patch I did the other day. There you go. Enjoy. Cheers.